Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation Vidcast, part of the Big Play Vidcast Network and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, and how do we feel, Steeler Nation? Division rival Cincinnati Bengals have made the Super Bowl. Way earlier than we expected. They are in the Super Bowl. This year was still supposed to be another retooling year for the Cincinnati Bengals. They barely won the division up until the previous week. The Steelers still had a shot of winning the division by winning out, but that wasn't the case as soon as they lost to Cincinnati that second time. But Cincinnati did its due diligence. Whooped up on the Steelers twice, whooped up on the Ravens twice. Look out, AFC North. The Bengals are here. And my cat is here to rub it in. Bengals fan herself, Lexi, just gloating all over the house. My Bengals are in the Super Bowl, and your team is out. Knock it off, Lexi. I hate your gloating. You're just like all those bandwagon Bengals fans, always super excited about their team, doing one thing or another. But now they get back to making a Super Bowl once a decade, maybe. I don't know. It was odd enough that they almost played the San Francisco 49ers, which would have been the third time in a row that they've made the Super Bowl and would have played the San Francisco 49ers. But the Rams were on top. Rams are the better team. It's going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a tough matchup. And Steeler Nation, we are now on alert because we are built to beat the Ravens. We are built to stop the run. Strong defense. Slow the game down. Problem is, the teams that are winning now that we're seeing in the finals, the Rams, KC, Buffalo, Cincinnati. These are high-scoring teams. This is a new style of offense that our defense has now got to figure out because we figured out how to stop the run. Enough. At least mobile quarterbacks, I should say. Our running defense was kind of crap last year. I think they're going to get a little bit better with a full year behind them and a little bit more health on the front seven. But coming forward now, we've got to have our secondary be exceptional because we've got to take on the likes of Joe Burrow twice a year. We got to take on the likes of a Kansas City if we play them, Buffalo if we play them, Herbert if we play the Chargers. We've got some explosive quarterbacks in the AFC now. And that is something to have to deal with going forward as this team continues to rebuild. We already started our rebuild, and I was corrected yesterday where people were like, oh, Stryker, we can't spend 5 or 6 years on a rebuild. And I said, well, let me correct myself. We're more like a retooling, kind of like what the Ravens did. Brought in a lot of new youth, starting to revamp offensive line. We had 2 draft picks, 4 starters on offense last year. Had a starting punter, a new starting punter, and a new starting slot corner with Norwood all last year. We even had Loudermilk get in for a start last year. So we had 7 different rookies start different games last year for us, which was pretty impressive. But it's also part of a rebuild. It's the reason why Ben got sacked a ton of times last year and will now retire with the most sacks ever by a quarterback in NFL history since Tom Brady looks like he's retiring too. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to watch Tom Brady retire on a stretcher, but I will take the latter. If he's out of the league, I am happy because I just don't personally like the guy. Guys, this is live, so if you got any questions, any comments, go ahead and shoot it to me across all your platforms on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. I'll throw them up here live. We'll talk about it, and we'll have a lot of fun. That's why I love doing these. Another thing that I wanted to touch base on, I am super, super proud of our rookie running back, Najee Harris, making the Pro Bowl. Now that Mixon and Chase have made the Pro Bowl, I think the correct moves were made. Najee Harris being a first-round draft pick. You're not supposed to draft first-round running backs in the first round. That is the dumbest thing ever. Okay, Kuiper, we get it. You can never, no. Can't draft running backs in the first round. Well, we now have a Pro Bowl rookie running back that we drafted in the first round. 4th best running back in the league yardage-wise behind a garbage offensive line for running the football. That is an impressive rookie year, not even fumbling once. And when you have a trash offensive line, that means you have people in the backfield early. And Najee still hang on to the football every time he got hit in the backfield, every time he tried to spin out of somebody in the backfield and make a play. Thank you, Najee. You got the respect and the accolades that you deserved in your rookie season, and happy to have that and see that cherry on top with that Pro Bowl nod. And also couldn't be happier, too, for Deontay Johnson making it as well. His numbers were better than half of the receivers in the AFC that made the Pro Bowl. And he deserved to be there. But he's a little less known guy. Started having a little bit more drops at the end of the season. Led the league in drops the previous season. Definitely didn't do it this year. He's improving, but I'm happy to see him in the Pro Bowl too. So guys, let me know how you're feeling about Cincy being in the Super Bowl. Let me know about how you're feeling about the team in general. And I've got some other topics to talk about. We'll touch base on a little bit later. But first, we get to you, Steeler Nation. What's on your mind? What's going on? Brian Brown, good to hear from you, my friend. We will struggle next year, averaging 10 to 13 points a game. Worst offensive coordinator ever. Well, I don't disagree with the fact I think we will be struggling next year. 10 to 13 points seems a little low. That's very, very low. If we're that bad, that is like all-time NFL low for if you're averaging between 10 and 13 points per game. Worst offensive coordinator, though, yet, I'm still not sure what his offense looks like. This offense looked exactly like Randy Fichtner's offense from last year. And I think it's because of Ben Roethlisberger, because he could only throw short passes or down the sideline, could not attack the middle of the field at all last year. It's like we didn't even have like a post play at all or a slant route. We rarely ran those. Everything to the edge, everything line of scrimmage within 5 yards. That sucks. And I honestly think it's going to be a little bit more open, a little bit more pre-snap motion, kind of like what we saw in preseason last year. And you may have forgotten, Steeler Nation, though it was preseason, and we all want to knock on preseason, Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins put up a ton of points in preseason. And even Dobbs on his drive in the preseason got some points. So, you know, that to me was more of Matt Canada's offense that we were kind of putting in place. Ben could only run so much. We were kind of limited with what we could do with Ben this year. Love Ben, all-time Hall of Famer, should be a first ballot gold jacket guy, unless, you know, the press just wants to be D-bags about it. But he was definitely diminished from when they started losing in 2020, when he got a little banged up, couldn't throw the deep ball anymore, and then we started losing games because we became a strictly short passing game. But great take there, Brian. Always great hearing from you. Magnus St. Ange, where are we headed for future quarterback? And to say Mason or Haskins. Oh, I'm intrigued. I'm not banking on Mason or Haskins being our next quarterback. I am intrigued in the competition. I liked the competition last year. Haskins in his first year in his offense, without even doing anything or even knowing the offense yet, playing against Rudolph in his third year with the offense, nearly played as well as Mason Rudolph. And in my opinion, may have outplayed him a little bit, but I understand why they stuck with Rudolph for this season due to his play in the preseason. He was still a very good player. Now, going into year two, I'm more intrigued because to see Haskins with a full year of the Steelers offense under his belt, going up against Mason Rudolph in his fourth year, to me, if he can outplay Mason Rudolph in that situation, that gets me a little bit more excited. I know he can make more throws and better throws on the field than Rudolph. He can also extend plays a little bit better and make some extra plays. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens. But me personally, I think we're going to pick up a free agent quarterback. If we get lucky, Steeler Nation, and Kenny Pickett drops to us, I draft him. That's a no-brainer. I can't move up for him yet, though. I really can't. When we're trying to rebuild, we can't give up draft capital, especially if you're going to have a rookie quarterback. This year, it might be a little smarter to keep concentrating on the offensive line and the defensive line because we don't know if Tuitt's going to be back. So that becomes a big hole to plug as well if Tuitt's not coming back. So So where are we going to go in free agency? If you want to say, like, I think the pipe dreams of drafting or like giving up draft picks to pick up Rodgers, pick up, Russell Wilson as another option, or the Houston quarterback also that took the year off because of his problems. Those three are options, but it would have to be maybe one draft pick, maybe two, but not two first rounders. No way. No way. First and a third, maybe. First and a third in another year, definitely. So the compensation would have to be right for us to meet that level, but no way would this team give up multiple first-round draft picks for a quarterback. Why? Because we are not the pre-1969 Pittsburgh Steelers that used to give up every single draft pick for every veteran that was a problem in the NFL and some other team, or they're just getting rid of an old veteran. Come on over to the Steelers. We'll give you draft picks for it. There's a reason why the Steelers never won a playoff game before 1972. They've been around since 1933. Why? Because they did not build through the draft until Chuck Noll came on in 1969, had a terrible one-win season, but from then on, built the dynasty that became the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they have been in contention ever since. That's the way the Steelers do business. Yeah, sure. Talk to me about giving up a number one draft pick for a guy like Fitzpatrick. But that ended up being a no-brainer. We got a guy on a rookie contract in his second year, a couple games into the season. Only gave up one first-round draft pick to land an All-Pro. No question. 100 times out of 100, you take that. Still on his rookie contract, on the fifth-year option, and they're probably looking to bypass the fifth-year option and just give him a new contract like they did with T.J. Watt this past year. And I think that would be ample compensation for a guy like Fitzpatrick. I just want to see somebody a little bit more athletic and a bigger thumper in the strong safety position playing next to him. Tyrann Mathieu is my all-time hopeful, but we'll have to see. So free agent quarterbacks back on topic, Magnus. I apologize. I got to skew all the time. But free agent quarterbacks, I love me some Jameis Winston. Love Jameis Winston. I'd take him in a heartbeat, as well as Teddy Bridgewater. Those guys are high touchdown to low interception ratio quarterbacks, and Winston's getting better every year, and he's already shown he can throw 30 touchdowns in a season. I take a guy like Winston. He's my number one. I know there's other options out there. Talk to me about your options, Steeler Nation. We'll get to them. Corinne Morgan, how you doing? Yeah, he did, Najee. Love us some Najee. Glad to hear that, Corinne. Emil, good to hear from you again, sir. What's up, Steeler Nation? Congratulations to you guys. Yeah, we can't be happier. Can't be happier. Ed Siegler, how you doing, man? What's your thoughts of a trade for Carson Wentz, seeing that the Colts may be willing to move him? If the compensation is right, that's my thing, Ed, is I don't want to give up multiple firsts on any quarterback. There might be a situation here where the Colts even just drop Carson Wentz. If they did, then we don't have to give up any compensation. It depends on where they want to move, how they want to move forward, and what they want their quarterback situation to look like, because they've been bringing in free agent quarterbacks ever since that Luck retired early. Bringing in free agent Rivers for a few years, bringing in free agent Wentz for a few years, or actually they may have traded for, and I think Rivers was a free agent. But yeah, that's not a bad way to do it. It kind of extended their window a little longer. They were still fairly competitive. They had a good shot at making the playoffs if they could have beaten the Jacksonville Jaguars. But no, the Jaguars had to say, slam the door on the Colts, allow the Steelers in. Loved it. That's right. I guess the Colts would have been out anyway. It was more of like the letting the Raiders and the Chargers in, both of them. So yeah, but the Colts were close. They just ended up losing a couple down the stretch that they probably should have. But I'm not against Carson Wentz. I like him. I think he's an accurate quarterback. I think generally he makes good decisions. He's prone to having a game every once in a while, though, that's a head scratcher, that's just aberrant and out of the realm of what he normally does. That can happen in the regular season. It can happen at the end of the season. It can happen in the playoffs. You know, a guy like that that gets the yips in a game every once in a while is tough to deal with. Ben had some moments too, but he was generally competitive and did his best to try to get us back in every game he played in. So we'll have to see. But I like that take, Ed. Thank you very much for throwing Carson Wentz's name out there in the ring. Corinne, back again. I'm cool with Najee being in the Super Bowl. Our division is Natty being in the Super Bowl. That's exactly the way I feel, Corinne. I am 100% with you. I feel that for a division to really be respected within the league as being a difficult division, which teams have gone to a Super Bowl with your division and which teams have won a Super Bowl in your division. That's why the NFC East is the industry standard for NFL excellence in Super Bowls. All 4 teams winning a Super Bowl championship. Very competitive division every year, whether they're competitively good or competitively bad. They're still competitive, and we're always talking about it NFC East, no matter who they're playing. Dallas tends to be the reason why we move the conversation as well. But great point, Corinne. I'm with you there as well, and I got a take to talk to you about that in a bit. Brian Brown, I've heard many so-called Steeler fans say that they want the Bengals to win. Isn't that the same as pulling for Cleveland or Baltimore? See, I'm with Corinne, and I understand you too, Brian, and I understand I'm a minority here. I'm a minority with the Steeler fans that I talk with the writers that know my perspective on this. I like the division to advance. I like the division to win in Super Bowls. Makes for a stronger division. But it's different now for the Cincinnati Bengals, and here's my take on the Bengals. There is no way I would have ever pulled for the Cincinnati Bengals if they had Vontaze Burfict or Pac-Man Jones on that team. Zero chance I would have ever pulled for those Cincinnati Bengals teams. Screw them. No freaking way. But this new young Cincinnati Bengals team I have more respect for. Their defense is not cheap shotting us anymore. Not like the Cleveland defense is now the cheap shot artists. When you have their guy over there trying to match TJ Watt and sacks and be like, oh, I should be Defensive Player of the Year. And then what does he do? Nothing, while TJ Watt goes and sets the record and ties Michael Strahan in one less game for most sacks for a season. Sorry, that guy's a cheap shot artist. And if you want to keep race baiting the NFL stating that our Christian quarterback, Mason Rudolph, who was being held back by the great Marquise Pouncey, said the N-word multiple times to you when our team said he did not. No parabolic Mike picked that up. If you want to run with that, I don't respect you at all. Don't respect that team, and there's no way I'd pull for Cleveland. And that's the crazy thing, too, Steeler Nation. Cleveland was the preseason Super Bowl contender for our division. They have talent up and down the roster, both sides of the football. Both offensive and defensive lines are incredible. Great skill position players, and they're deep. 4, 5, 6 players deep at wide receiver. 2 players deep at running back. 2 players deep at tight end. This is a great team, and of course, a new all-world quarterback now that we're going to have to deal with for years. And that's what it means, Steeler Nation. We've got to deal with Carson Wentz now. How does that make us feel? Because we were built to stop the running attack of the Ravens. Now we got to figure out how to stop Carson Wentz. We'll have to see. Emil back again. Let's bring it back to the north. Go Bengals. Still love my Steelers. Yeah, I'm always going to love my Steelers. There's no way to ever root for the Bengals, Cleveland, or Cincinnati against the Steelers. There's time, Steeler Nation. Don't get me wrong. Don't be disingenuous or liars, Steeler Nation. You have all rooted for the Ravens at some time or another, the Bengals at some time or another, or the Browns at some time or another, depending on who they were playing. Sometimes they're matched up against each other. Sometimes they were matched up against Tom Brady, and we like to see him lose. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So don't forget about that, guys. There's times that we've always rooted for our division opponents, just never against our Steelers. No, Rudolph. No, Corinne. I understand that perspective. Getting Mason Rudolph on the field, and that's something like we've got to talk about. Like I had Louis Riddick on the show at the beginning of the year and the preseason, and we talked about Mason Rudolph at length. He's a big Haskins guy. He loves Haskins' potential. He likes to see what Haskins is going to do and how he's going to develop under Tomlin. But he only sees Mason Rudolph as a backup. And when you see these quarterbacks shooting it out between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and one of the greatest games I've ever seen, period, let alone playoff game, just a great, great football game. You're going to think that Mason Rudolph can keep up with that kind of scoring. It makes you think. We know we're going to get a new quarterback. Is it going to be this year? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe this is going to be a year where we kind of focus on the defense, focus on the offensive line, get some more skill position players, restock the war chest before grabbing our franchise quarterback. But we'll have to see. But definitely agree with you there. It's going to be tough if he's in there. Magnus back again. That was against practice players. Yeah, well, it's preseason. You still got to realize in preseason, Ben didn't play at all in the preseason. That is unlike what a lot of teams do. A lot of teams still have their starters play in a quarter. And if you watch the preseason games this year, they had their starters playing more than we had our starters playing. And that's just the way it goes sometimes in preseason. They're not all practice players, and a lot of them made rosters because if you're first team in the preseason, you're making the roster. You're making the roster. Corey Frank, you got a lot to say, my friend. Let's see what you got. Okay, I mentioned this. Apparently, Pickett will be gone. So, therefore, got to get to you. I feel if a Malik Willis or Matt Corral is still available, I feel that we should get either one of them at 20. This will hold well for the fact that our O-line is young, but it is improving. And having a mobile quarterback will bode well for a Najee Harris and just maybe what we can play similar to the Ravens style of having a mobile quarterback. And these two that I have mentioned both have wheels, and the money that we have in cap space should be used to sign probably other players. We'll get to that in a second, but not a bad point. I mean, if the Steelers are going to bring in a rookie quarterback, they might as well be mobile. That's a great point, especially when we are rebuilding this offensive line. We've got Pro Bowl talent at running back. We've got Pro Bowl talent at our wide receiver one position. So let these guys keep going. Going to have Dotson back. Dotson's going to be great, and I hope he comes back to right tackle. Right tackle's his main spot, guys. That's where he was all high school, all college, when he was an All-American. I think he should be a right tackle in this league. We kept bringing in guys that are only right tackles. He played with DeCastro. DeCastro is only a right tackle. Brought in Trey Turner, who is only a right tackle. I think it's time to move him over to right tackle. I'd like to see him back in his major position, have him be the land mover at right tackle, and just watch our offensive line grow there. So, yeah, can't disagree, and I love those points, Corey. Thank you for your take. Yes, sir! Gabe Gotti, he agrees. He agrees. Good hearing from you, Gabe. We have to address the offensive line. If we don't, then it doesn't matter who we put in as quarterback. Agreed. 100%. Offensive line is a priority this season. Absolute priority. And I'm 100% with you. Corinne, we don't want Rodgers. Love that take. I'd rather have Russell Wilson than Rodgers. If I have a choice between the two and they're sitting in front of me, I take Russell Wilson 10 out of 10 times. I think Russell Wilson is a better teammate. I think Russell Wilson is a smarter quarterback. I think Rodgers, though, is probably the better quarterback on the field. I mean, he literally gets to the NFC Championship game like every year. Every year. Always deep in the playoffs. Always getting his team around the most wins in the NFC. I mean, the guy can play. On the field, he can play. Off the field, he's a bit of I don't know. I prefer his commercials to what he does off the field, to tell you the truth. But that's my point. Brian Brown back again. Why? Because he was at Pitt. I suspect that's why so many defend Canada. I don't think Pickett is all that, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, we'll have to see. It's still out on Pickett. Like I said, I would draft Pickett if he fell to us. That's the only way I'm drafting Pickett. I'm not going up for him. But me, I'm on the other side. I'm closer to University of Maryland. I've seen Canada here, and he had one of their best offensive seasons over here at University of Maryland, which had an awesome season for McFarland, that's our running back on this team. And I was expecting to see him more involved in this offense this season. Unfortunately, his injuries stopped him from being our main backup, and that kind of hurt us behind Najee. But hell, we kind of ran the wheels with Najee the entire season. So it really didn't matter who our backup was. Dave McAllister, who has a longer season starting at quarterback, Mason Rudolph or Baker Mayfield? A longer season starting at quarterback. What, for next year? Obviously, Baker has started a full season at quarterback. I know Mason started about 6 games that one season. Could probably look it up here quickly as we're talking. But yeah, I don't know if you're talking about for next year. I'm not even sure that Mason's going to be the starting quarterback next year. So, we'll have to see what Mason Rudolph becomes or what he can become. He may surprise all of us. I mean, he has a deep arm. He has a strong arm, so I know we've kind of soured on him a little bit, but when he came out there to play in games, he went 5-3 in 8 games. He played in 10, got knocked out of 2 of them, started 8 games, came in another 2, 5-3 that season when Ben went down, and then went 0-1 the next year, and then got us the tie. Got us the tie this year. He probably lost the last game. Yeah. If he was 0-1 in 2020, that was the last game of the season against the Cleveland Browns, which was a game that he played a much better game against the Cleveland Browns with less talent, all of our talent resting that game, than we did the following week with everyone healthy and Ben Roethlisberger laying the egg in the first quarter, making it too much for us to come back from. So interesting stuff to think about. Thank you there for those thoughts. Brian Brown, I don't want the Steelers to have 30 interceptions either. Saints can keep Winston. Disagree there strongly, because what did he do after his crazy 30-30 season? Was he had a season off pretty much where he didn't do much starting. I think he didn't start any games in 2020, but this past year, 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 5-2 in 7 games. Everybody was talking about New Orleans going to the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, winning their division at that point of the season before Winston got hurt. He looked a hell of a lot better this year, and he looks to be progressing well. That's why I disagree with the stance that he's going to throw 30 interceptions. I don't think he'll throw 30 interceptions in 5 years in our system. I don't. I really don't. But that's where we disagree, Brian. I always love hearing from you. Forget that. I'll never hope for division rival success. That's fine too. We can have our own opinion on being happy or sad about the Bengals being in the playoffs. Derek, how you doing over there on Facebook, my friend? What's up, Steeler Nation? We are pretty bang up on both sides of the ball. So doing off season, which side do we focus on more? Good question. I mean, we're kind of at a situation where we're kind of open-ended in our rebuild on who we're going to bring in to retool. Probably going to bring in another offensive tackle. Probably going to bring on another interior offensive lineman, whether it's another center to compete at that center guard position where Green can play center or guard. I'm fine with either. I'd like to see some backup tight end talent that can catch the football as well to help. Gentry's really progressing well. So I don't know. Maybe we can grab like a blocking tight end late then. So that might be where we go with that. But on the defensive side, might have to find somebody to fix that left defensive tackle position. I know Wormley played impressive. He did well. And Loudermilk even did really well as a rookie within his limited snaps. So I'm excited to see how he progresses. Might we have to put somebody else in there? I don't know. That's up to the team and what they think between Wormley and Loudermilk. But with Alu saying he's coming back, it means nose tackle is no longer a number 1 priority for us anymore. Because I thought we'd use some draft capital to grab a nose tackle. Not going to happen. And if we do, it will be a day 3 pick. Round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7. That's when you grab your nose tackles now, guys. Because they only play 30% of the plays, 35 tops. You don't use a first, second, or third rounder on a nose tackle, just like you don't use a first, second, or third rounder on a fullback. You don't use it on a kicker. You don't use it on a punter. Those are strictly for people that are going to be playing every down or the majority of the game. Definitely not long snapper. Definitely not. Dave McAllister back again. Release the audio, Striker. Nice. Brian Brown, will never hear me pulling for the Browns and Tiger stripes. Ride the Escaluzers, Cincinnati. Great take. Great take. But Were you ever rooting for Cincinnati when they were playing like the Browns a few years ago? Or not a few years ago, but playing against the Bengals when the Bengals, or not the Bengals, the Ravens, when the Ravens, of course, are winning the division, you want Cincinnati to try to upset them. Those situations, I'll definitely root for the Escalosers. Love that nickname. Absolute spot on. Love that take, Brian. If it helps. Yep, exactly. Only if it helps the Steelers. Again, Brian, the Ravens' play style is ridiculous. They still need to put Beaky Buzzard on their helmets. Bad call, refs. Bad call. The birds, the crows in Baltimore yelling out, bad call all the time. Definitely put Beaky Buzzard on that helmet. What up, Jordan? Welcome to the show, my friend. Always good to hear from you. Steeler Nation in the house. Jordan Schofield, our great photographer over at Steeler Nation, even joining in. You never know who's going to join in on these chats. Sometimes we'll even have some players on the chat. We'll have to see. Brian Brown, do you think the Steelers would be better off to improve the O-line, D-line, and defensive backs and let Mason Rudolph have a chance? I'm fine with them letting Mason Rudolph and Haskins have a chance as long as they bring in one vet. Have them all work on it, and that's kind of how you'd have to ride for a rebuild for a season. But that would give you your best chance to finding the right person to fit the system for Matt Canada's offense to move the football more efficiently. I just can't rely on those two. I'm not going to go into the season thinking those are the only two quarterback options because it's just not going to happen. But I do agree. We've got to keep focusing on building up this O-line, improving the D-line, and inside linebackers, and outside corners, and my absolute number one is strong safety. I'm done with Edmonds. I don't want him back on the team. I don't care if he costs $4 million a season. I would rather have anybody but Edmonds. I want a thumper. I want a playmaker. Bring me Tyrann Mathieu out of free agency. I will pay the $8 million a season to have him plop next to Fitzpatrick. Matthews, Honey Badger and Fitzpatrick, guys. Just think about that for a second. Honey Badger and Fitzpatrick as your two safeties on this team. It doesn't matter who your outside corners are. They're going to make plays. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. If the Steelers want to win games and they want to win on defense, that's a quick way to get somebody in that can help us be a hell of a lot better than we are now. Ed Siegler, how you doing, man? Good to hear from you this year, or this chat. Your thoughts on Alex Highsmith? Didn't get the feel that he made that giant step this year that people expected. Your thoughts? I thought Highsmith did very well as both a pass rushing outside linebacker and a run stopping outside linebacker. And that's what we have to do. That's the reason why we didn't keep Ingram. Ingram is strictly a pass rusher. He's a one-trick pony. He can't stop the run. Highsmith can. Highsmith improved this season. He went from 2 sacks the previous year to 6 sacks as a full-time starter, albeit I understand 6 sacks is pretty low for an outside linebacker being a starter. I know that is well below what he set as his goals for the season. I know he wanted to have double-digit sacks this season playing opposite of TJ Watt, and he will still get one-on-one reps with having TJ Watt on the other side until he becomes more disruptive. But I do love his floor. He has improved from year 1 to year 2, and he is way higher in his development going into year 3 than what Bud Dupree was when we had him. It took Bud Dupree 4 years before we started getting any production out of him. We're already starting to get production out of Highsmith back when he wasn't even expected to be a starter in year 1, and now that he is a starter in year 2. 74 total tackles too, guys. That's great. 15 TFLs. He only had 6 sacks. He had 15 TFLs. That's how well he was doing in the run game, guys. That is big. 15 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble. He will improve off of those numbers next year, but still no problem with going out there and grabbing some depth to serve as the 3rd outside linebacker coming in, because our only guy that got away from us that we drafted last season is now a bit player and a good player for the Giants, and Quincy Roche. But we'll have to see what we do draft-wise this year, or if Roche becomes available, find a way to grab him. But good thought. Eric, can't wait to see how the Bengals embarrass themselves. Well, here's the one thing, though. What we used to always expect about the Bengals, they'd always have like bad special teams. They'd have like a bad placeholder, a bad snapper, long snapper, or a bad kicker that would just miss and bone kicks. They've got a great kicker now, guys. They got a great kicker over there. Is that the Penn State, the old Penn State kicker? Is that Gold? I can't remember if that Gold or not. But at least but he's been phenomenal this season. And this division has money kickers. Justin Tucker, Boswell, Cincinnati's guy. Cleveland's is okay. But those three guys are elite. They're NFL elite kickers. So we'll have to see them. They'll have to fumble or botch snaps in the offensive zone, throw interceptions. And Joe Burrow is the real deal. And there's a reason why the Cincinnati Bengals keep 8 wide receivers on their roster. Most the Steelers have ever kept is 6. They have 8 wide receivers on their roster because they have the quarterback that can distribute the football to all of them. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. Eric, Rams by 13 points. There you go, guys. Yeah, chime in. Let us know how you think the Super Bowl is going to go. I know I'm going to get a little bit more in depth on those predictions next week about how, because that's going to be leading up to Super Bowl, but love to hear that kind of stuff too. Brian, how much do you think it will take to sign Minka? Ooh, that's a tough question. Safeties generally don't make as much money as other players on defense. 10 mil a year would be on the high end for a safety per season, but I would not be surprised if the Steelers spent somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 mil a year on this safety. I wouldn't. And he's worth it. You spend your money on the people that are worth it. He's not going to, if he's sitting there expecting to get TJ Watt money, there's no way we're going to pay a safety 25 mil a season to 30 mil a season. Zero chance. Zero chance. TJ Watt's winning games for us. Minka's not winning games for, well, there's a couple games where he knocked down the last pass, so I'll give him some credit for those. He did one for us last year as well. But if you're getting those interceptions and returning for touchdowns, getting more scoop and scores, getting more batted down plays at the end of games when they got to go to their go-to receivers and you're the one stopping them, yeah, that's when he's winning us games. I know he did that in Baltimore last year when we played in Baltimore the previous season, knocking the play down at the goal line. Did it the following week there too. Also, the last throw of the game, there he was winning this game. So he was scooping and scoring that year too. But we're backing up the truck. He's going to be the highest paid safety ever. He will be the highest paid safety ever, and he's worth it. He's a guy you can build your defense around. Those guys. Hayward, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. You can build a great defense around 3 awesome players at 3 different levels of that defense. Awesome thing. Brian Brown, Ingram was giving up on plays against the Bengals. Yeah, guys, the guy is not a high motor guy. He is strictly a one-trick pony trying to rush the passer. And like you're saying, he won't continue through the play. Like we've seen TJ Watt continue 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds and end up making a forced fumble. Remember that Denver game? Came back off the edge where he was completely blocked, stuck with the play, followed the quarterback up toward the top of the screen, forced the fumble. Game-changing moment for that Denver game. Big play. Big play in that game for him to be able to come in and get us that win. So that's the difference in motor. You know, Ingram, there's a reason why Ingram wasn't a starter this year. He couldn't beat out Highsmith. He couldn't. He's past his prime. He went to a team that's not that great on defense. And he wasn't even as productive as Highsmith was in the snaps that he got. So that's why I'm not as upset. I'm happy we got that pick because there was no way he was playing for us, guys. He already I'm hurt. I'm not traveling. That's him telling you, I'm not playing for you. Trade me. And we did. We got something for a guy that was going to give us nothing. Because he would have spent the rest of the year in the locker room, unless like TJ Watt would have gone down. He's like, oh, I feel better today. Then he would have tried to come out and play. Screw him. There's a reason why we got rid of him, guys. And we got at least we got something for him. Kansas City's not in the Super Bowl, right? Kansas City's not in the Super Bowl. So there you go. I hope it was worth it for you, Ingram. We got something out of it. You didn't. Michael Hall, how do I feel about Quadri Diggs or Devin McCourty as our free safeties? I know I love, Tyrann Mathieu and Fitzpatrick. I'm not against either of those. Those are great options, Michael. Excellent, excellent options. I would not be unhappy about any of them. The only free agent strong safety I do not want on this team is Edmonds. That's it. I don't want Edmonds back again. He's shown me what he is. He hits the hole, and then the hole, whoever's coming through the hole hits him. He does not knock people backwards in the hole. Not like the strong safeties we're used to watching, Steeler Nation. Not like Troy Polamalu. Not like Carnell Lake. Not like Myron Bell. Lethon Flowers. I mean, Bell and Flowers weren't Pro Bowlers, but those guys were killing people in the hole. They were killing receivers in front of them, separating the football from the running backs and the receivers because they hit hard and with authority. And that was the way strong safeties played back then. A little harder to find those kind of players now. It just is. But that's the type of banger. I want bangers. I don't want rangy guys that are a little bit more finesse for strong safety. I want my strong safety to be a banger. So we'll have to see. Derek Lohr. TJ Watt should be the single season sack leader. He had a great season. And he is. He's tied with Strahan. He's the single season sack leader. I mean, sure, he's tied, but there's no question to me that if he's healthy every game next season, with no more groin issues, with no more broken ribs, this guy will kill and completely own the sack record in 17 games. I can't wait to watch it. I really can't, because this he's not just an NFL player. The guy's a Watt. And Watts play with 100%. They're not happy with being the best in the league. They want to be the best ever. And you got TJ trying to be the better than his brother. And after he wins the Defensive Player of the Year award this year, 2 times should have been Defensive Player of the Year, getting it in his 3rd year, he's still going to be 2 behind his brother. So he still has incentive to be better than his brother at Defensive Player of the Year awards. And I love that kind of competition because there's nobody you want to show up more than your brother. And show that you can do something better than your brother can. And TJ's starting to do it. And man, he's on fire. And sad that he didn't get noticed on his rookie contract. He didn't get noticed until he got paid the most for any defensive player in history at the time when he signed his contract. Now all of a sudden he's a shoo-in for Defensive Player of the Year. But I thought he should have had it in the definitely the year before. Definitely had better metrics than all, except for one category, than dude over in LA, who's a great player too. Don't get Arnold's a great player, great Pittsburgh Panther as well. But Watt should have won it last year. Definitely should have won it. He was robbed. He was robbed from DPOY last year. Brian Brown, his name is McPherson. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot the kicker's name. I appreciate that. Cheers. That's why I love you guys, Steeler Nation. You guys keep me on. Rad Rob! Hey, Stryker. I am an unusual fan, Steelers or otherwise, is that I root for Steelers rivals once Steelers are out of the playoffs. I love Joe Burrow. I rooted for Icky Shuffle too. I'm with you there too, Rad Rob. Rad Rob, we agree on something. We are both in Steeler Nation minority here. We are both rooting for them. And I still remember the Icky Shuffle. Spike. And I saw Icky on the sideline giving a hug to Burrow there right when the interview started. Oh, man, how fun is it for those old heads, man? That was the last time they were in a Super Bowl. Boomer Esiason, who's a graying announcer. Icky Woods. Anthony Munoz, wasn't he on the offensive line? Hell of an offensive lineman out there. I forget who their receivers were. Man, I should know one of their receivers. But Icky Shuffle, man, the whole country loved the Icky Shuffle at that time. And I was pretty young at the time, but I did love watching that team as well. And was rooting for them against San Francisco, even though I really liked Montana at the time as well. But love that too. So what's your comment here, Rob? Years when the Steelers opponents beat out Steelers And then I want to show the rest of the NFL fans the only reason they beat the Steelers is because they can beat everyone else too. And that's true. They showed they showed the entire NFL they can whoop up on the Steelers twice and the Ravens twice in the regular season. That was 4 of their wins. And they split with Cleveland. Put that in your mind cap there for a second, guys. They split with Cleveland, and they blew us out of the water twice and blew the Ravens out of the water twice. This is a tough team. We're going to have to compete against this team for years. And it's going to be an uphill battle until we get this retooling done and our franchise quarterback in place. This year, the Steelers ran the 3-4 groin defense. Well said. I was always saying they get kicked in the groin every week. I've been tracking injuries since 2016. I think they've had more groin injuries this year than every single year combined that I've been tracking this team. Insane year for groin injuries. What the hell's going on? Problem with Ingram trade, it has nothing to do with his talent relative to Highsmith or anyone else. Very un-Steeler-like submission to a player trade demand that didn't happen with linebacker Merriweather. Well, also Merriweather was still a little bit earlier within the trade system. We didn't trade players mid-season in the 80s. Basically, nobody traded players in the mid-season in the 80s. The trade deadline meant nothing. But yeah, it's just something more that players had to deal with outside of the seasons. But I hear what you're saying there, Rob. Ingram problem is it is nakedly revealed that the Steelers or the last 5 or 10 years are imposters. The standard is no longer standard. Sad, but true. I don't know how Ingram relates to that other than you're just disappointed at the way he was traded when he wasn't going to play for us anyway. He's a backup. Guy's not a starter. Guy was a 1-year loan player anyway. I'm not going to be upset about the Steelers getting something out of a player that ended up getting nothing since he's bounced from the playoffs as well. Him being one of the problems why that team couldn't win against the Cincinnati Bengals. He did not have a good game against the Bengals, and he was exposed. He got a sack. He got a sack, but other than that, he's loafing around the field on plays where he's not getting close. He does not have a high motor. Brian Brown, do you think the crying Bengals lady will get to go to the Super Bowl? I think she needs to be at the Super Bowl. If nothing else, that they get a happy cry out of her at the end of the game if the Bengals win. Then that whole meme can come full circle. That'd be amazing to me. But on the worst case scenario, if they lose and she cries again, it's still fucking hilarious. Love that stuff. Absolutely love that stuff. And the other thing that I just wanted to touch base on quickly, too, that I had written down, wanted to talk about, too, like Pac-Man said no bandwagon fans from Steeler Nation. And I told you guys, too, it's like, Pac-Man, I don't give a crap what you say. I didn't respect you as a player. I don't respect you as a human being. I don't respect you for sending your boys back to your strip club where you got disrespected and paralyzed a bouncer. Not cool. There's no respect for you. I don't do anything you say. So screw you. I'm rooting for your Bengals. I'm rooting for them too because you're not on them. If you were on them, I wouldn't root for them. So take that, Pac-Man. Sorry, dude. Keep chewing your power pellets and chasing ghosts because that's what you get. And another thing too, guys, there's an interesting aspect that I want to get your opinion on here quickly. We're down to the last 9 minutes or so. But Antonio Brown and what he's done here at the end of the season, I know we talked about him coming off the field, and then he spun his whole, like him being upset about not getting targets at halftime to now being too injured to play and just threw off his equipment when his coach said, get out of here or you're done. He said, you're done. So I'm done. Oh, I'm done. Oh, shirt. Oh, gloves. Oh, I'm done. Oh, shoulder pads. Oh, helmet. Off the field. Oh, I'm done. You can't tell me the way he was jumping around off the field that he still had any injury in that ankle when we were trying to get him back out on that field. Now he's spun it with his lawyer and his agent to kind of throw the NFL under the bus for something the NFL does for every team, and that is utilize those injections for players that want to play. And I know those injections have been limited due to the last collective bargaining agreement, but you can sign a waiver to have those shots still administered. And to get that shot administered, you have to sign a waiver. So, AB, if you sign the waiver, you're screwed. If they forced you to do it, you did not sign a waiver, you have a case. Otherwise, you're just complaining about something that the rest of the NFL does. Rad Rob back again. Ingram trade is one, but a dozen of the examples of the current R2 Steelers do not uphold the real Steelers standards. The only one that I was upset about, and probably we're going to agree on this one too, Rad Rob, was the year that we dropped Blunt. It was the end of the season. He got upset. He left the field, 10 seconds early or a minute early, and we dumped him. And I thought that was the dumbest move the Steelers ever could have made. Because we were going into the playoffs. If anything happened to Bell, he would have been excellent. Our offense would not have missed a beat having Blunt in there for Bell if Bell would have went down. We had nobody to answer behind Bell. That is where I got upset about it. This Ingram trade, no, we got compensation for it. We didn't get compensation for Bell. And the non-exclusive tag on Bell was one that I was disappointed with as well. It should have been it should have been the franchise tag, which was still other teams were able to make offers on your team, not the non-exclusive, which no team is allowed to make your offers because you're keeping that player. That made it so we got nothing from Bell other than the compensation we got for a compensation pick, a third rounder a little bit later. Pac-Man, don't have to worry about me. Pac-Man can kiss it. Hell yeah, Brian Brown. Screw Pac-Man. Screw Pac-Man. Joe Hayden is younger than Rod. We talked about this all the time. Failed to offer Rod. Yeah, and this is, I'm telling you, I know this argument because you stated it 3 times already, Rod Rob. Joe Hayden is not Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson was an Olympic athlete. Olympic level athlete. Hayden is a great football player. Rod Woodson, Olympic level athlete. That's how Rod Woodson was able to do his career. But I do agree that he can play free safety. I just don't have a place at free safety for him. Mink is not going to play strong. He didn't want to play strong with Miami. He's not going to play strong with us. We have to get a strong safety there. Unless we just have him on the roster as a backup. That could be an option. Michael Hall, Akeem Hick, JPP, Kellis Campbell, Jadeveon Clowney. Of those 4, who should be the best replacement should Tuitt doesn't return? Oh, that's interesting. Jason Pierre-Paul's too old. I don't want Jason Pierre-Paul ever on my team. He's just done. Out of the rest, I'm fine with Campbell. I'm fine with Clowney. Clowney's a little younger than Campbell. Campbell's more of a run stopper, though. He'd be more interior as opposed to the edge for our 3-4, and it would be interesting to see how Clowney would be able to transition into that spot because I thought they ran a 4-man front. I'm not positive, but I thought the Brownies were running a 4-man front. But to me, out of those guys, I would choose Clowney. That's for me personally. That's a good question. Thank you very much there, Michael. Brian, I think that perfect hit did more damage than what I thought. AB has gone nuts. AB's gone nuts for years, and that perfect hit was a bad one. But they're showing that CTE help happens from getting hit every day, more so than the big hits. So they're showing that in high school kids, it's showing up in some high school kids that die now. Showing up in college kids that die now where they're doing brain biopsies and finding CTE. So that's the crazy stuff. That's the absolute crazy stuff about it. But it was the one that was the most recognizable in his career. And he started doing crazier things, though, after that moment. You are right about that. Yes, Rod was greater than Joe, and the Steelers cornerback ever named not Blunt. True. Old Joe has still been 3rd or 4th best Steelers quarterback. Agreed. Hands down. Ike Taylor's up there, too. Loved me some Ike Taylor. Agreed. Joe may be 1 inch and 10 pounds less than Ron, but otherwise, Joe has a couple solid years left. And I agree. Rob, I think he will continue in the NFL. I still think he could probably play outside corner for us again next year. I don't know if he's ready to make that transition to free safety. I fully believe he can make that transition to free safety as well. Probably not on the Steelers, but another team would take him as a free safety if that's what he chose to do. But I'd take him back as an outside corner next year. I'm not ready for him to leave. 31-year-old Hayden is better than Sutton. I don't know. They're both kind of meeting close. It was like this, and then Sutton's inching up, and his play is diminishing a little bit. But yeah, they're about there. But then again, Rob, Hayden's had a lot more years and was a higher drafted pick and was drafted to be an outside corner and played early. Sutton grew within a system, started off a slot corner, and now is being a good edge corner. And he's a person you can move all around. So I like the diversity with Sutton as well. Hayden has said he's not playing safety. He'd retire first. Wow, that's a great point, Brian. I had not heard him say that yet, but I do agree with Rob that he could play safety should he want to. I'm good with Hayden as a third quarterback even, but when you lose him, it's like losing the unseen glue guys like Hayden, Vince Williams, Mike Hilton. Yeah, Nelson. Nelson was the one too that we lost because we kept Sutton. And I was telling everybody last season, Hilton's the guy we need to keep. And we should have gotten Hilton and Sutton because both of them were relatively cheap. Both of them. Hilton signed for $4 million a year for 4 years. $4 million a season for 4 years. $16 million. We had that. We could have done that. Instead, now we got to watch him do pick sixes against our team. Hurts. It hurts. And that's it, guys. We've been here for an hour. Thank you so much, Steeler Nation, for another great show. Rad Rob will get your last take here, too. And I'll take your last takes. Throw your last takes in here as I'm starting to run down, and I'll grab to them right before I sign off. My point is Hayden, as a safety, not necessary, but his leadership, mentoring, role modeling is impeccable. And Joe Hayden is still the best defensive back, not named Minkah. I can't disagree. I can't disagree with any of those points there, Rob. Great takes, as always, my friend. And Steeler Nation, thank you for joining us for another Steeler Nation vidcast. My favorite, getting to sit there and chill with you, talk, have back and forth. Love this format, guys. Thank you for making the show so fun for me. Make sure you come on over and check out the great sports content over at SteelerNation.com. We're also starting to do some fun stuff here. It looks like on Monday nights, right around 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we're starting to do like a Q&A over on the Twitter Spaces. I just jumped on there with Colton Gesser, who runs the Personal Foul podcast. Great football mind as well. We had a blast talking to Steeler Nation yesterday on the Twitter Spaces. So make sure you're following us on Twitter at Steeler Nation, the podcast at _SN Podcast, Instagram at Steeler Nation.com or Steeler Nation Podcast, and follow me, G.Stryker, at Instagram, at Twitter, and make sure to also jump on to the YouTube here. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Steeler Nation, with all of our great stuff that we're throwing up over there. And of course, I'll be back on Friday at 6 p.m. at DK Pittsburgh Sports for the weekly Steeler Nation podcast, and I'll see you then. So let's get to your last comments here, guys. Rad Rob again. Keep Hayden in any role. Love you. Peace. Can't disagree with you. Thanks again, Rob. Talk to you soon. Peace, my brother. Brian Brown, good show, Stryker. Thank you, sir. Always great to talk with you too, Brian. Love hearing from you. Michael Hall, great show as always. Go Steelers. #Renegade. We're going to keep you up, Michael, because I am Steeler Nation Stryker, rooting along with you as always. And thank you for joining us for the Steeler Nation vidcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the Big Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Michael Hall, rooting along with you as always, and Brian Brown. Go Steelers!